everybody. Welcome back to the Near Memo with Greg Sterling. Me saying my own name, of course, which is always weird. And the lovely and talented, as always, Mike Blumenthal. And today we're joined by Celeste Gonzalez, who is the director of Roo Labs at Rickety Roo and a local SEO. Welcome, Celeste.
Thank you. Very happy to be here today.
And we're going to be talking about something maybe a slightly different for us. David Mim and I did an interview with Craig Mount long time ago, who's the nerdy nuts peanut butter guy on TikTok. He was a local SEO and he built an entire business exclusively with TikTok. It's the only other time we've talked about TikTok, but Celeste posted on LinkedIn about the local Explorer program on TikTok. And I thought that was very interesting. And so we have her on to talk about that. And a lot of the people listening to this will probably be ignorant of that program and may be interested in learning more. So Celeste, why don't you tell us about your role at Rickety Roo specifically, and then let's get into what is the local Explorer program on TikTok.
Yeah. Okay. I'm the director of Roo Labs, which is our Rickety Roo way of saying SEO testing. Constantly looking for new things, which is how I sort of stumbled on the local Explorer program on TikTok. So, just as we've all seen with local and the SERPs, we kind of talked about this a little earlier. There's a carousel that will show TikToks when you look up local businesses or YouTube videos, and there is local discovery happening on there. So it is something that we've been exploring. And yeah, do you want me to just get into the local Explorer program now?
Well, sure. I mean, if you have nothing more to say about what you're doing at Rickety Roo,
Yeah,
go
I
ahead,
think that's
jump
pretty
in.
good. So it is very similar to Google's local guide program, and where users are able to leave reviews for locations within TikTok, and they will receive XP or experience points, get to certain levels, and they'll get, a badge. They'll be able to be part of the local Explorer community. And eventually there will be other benefits since this is something that's new that's rolling out right now. The documentation is actually only in the TikTok app. So Greg, Mike, and I talked about this a little bit earlier, but try to search for it. You're just going to see TikToks of creators talking about the program. You're not necessarily going to see the TikTok full documentation page yet.
So how do you get to that page if you want to learn more on the app?
I'd say the easiest way is just to find, look up a location or go to the search bar. And if you try to leave a review, there will be a little pop up that will bring up the local Explorer program. You can click on that and it will show you the documentation. Sometimes, depending on your account, I have multiple accounts. So some of them got the notification of the local Explorer program and I could click through the documentation there. The other accounts didn't. So I just say if you look up a place, try to pretend like you're going to leave a review, then you can find the documentation.
I think there's 6 levels as opposed to what, in 10 in the local guides program?
hmm Yes, yeah. So there's a level 0 through 5. They start you off just 0 XP. If you leave a review, get I believe it's like 20 points. With each review, they do mention that if you leave a photo with it, you get extra XP points. So they are really pushing for users to leave their own images of whatever the businesses that they visited. At level 5, you are able to get a coupon for a future purchase. That's only available in the US as of right now.
So how hard is it to sort of ascend in these levels? I mean, I'm a level 5 local guide, but I have long since stopped participating, so I'm stuck in this place. But do you have to do a lot of content to go between the levels, or is it fairly easy?
As of right now, with how they have their levels set up, it isn't too difficult to ascend there and to be part of their community, get the badge, and then have the opportunity for more benefits as they roll them out in the future. I have the levels pulled up just so I can read it. So level 1, 20 XP points, level 2, 80, level 3, 200, level 4, 500, level 5, 1,000. And each written review with 200 or more characters, you get 20 XP. If you include an image, it is an additional 5 XP points. So the max XP you could get per review is 25.
Okay, so unlike the local guides program, TikTok doesn't have an equivalent of Google Business Profile. So you can't go in and change hours or add details about the business. This is purely images and reviews, right?
Yes, yeah, written reviews and images, and the star rating. That's all that there is as of right now. With the places, sometimes the location before it was synced to the Google business profiles and was pulling in reviews from there. And it was sort of a combination of GBP reviews and TikTok reviews. As of now, and what I've been seeing is only TikTok reviews within the app. And that means that sometimes just because a location exists or a storefront exists doesn't mean that it's always showing up in TikTok as well as somewhere that you can tag.
So Google recently announced, I think within the last couple of months, Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that there are now 500 million local guides globally, which is just totally insane.
I mean, their main requirement is that you have a finger that can hit the keyboard.
Yeah, you're
That's the
breathing,
only
right?
requirement, no other
Right,
requirement.
right. Well, do you have any sense of how broadly, for lack of a better word, adopted this is? Meaning, how many people are participating as local explorers? Do you have any sense of that? I mean, it's if you I was trying in doing some research. I was trying to unwisely find this information on the desktop, which doesn't exist, and I just got page after page after page of people talking about the program, which is kind of annoying because it's just annoying to watch all these videos to get information. But it seemed like it was, there were a lot of people. Do you have any sense of really how big it is?
Honestly, I could not guesstimate on it. I feel like it's still in its infancy, and that's sort of why we're just seeing creator videos on people saying like, "Hey, this exists. You can get a coupon if you do all these reviews." I will say that I do believe that it's only going to continue to grow and be adopted more as more people are aware of it. You do see like if you post your own video and you tag a location, let's say you've never left a review before, if you go look at it, or actually when you're posting it, sometimes it'll prompt you to even leave a review of the place already. If you go back on your own profile where you've where you've tagged a location, it'll pop up like, how would you rate Gold's Gym? And you can put like your 5-star rating, and then it will take you to leave a text review and a photo. So I do think that it's still early to say how widespread this will be, but I would not count it out.
Well, definitely not. I mean, obviously we were talking sort of in the green room about, use of TikTok as a search engine. And TikTok seems to have been incrementally sort of positioning itself increasingly as a search engine. I mean, they talk explicitly about that. They had an ad in the UK about it being, a search engine or using it like a search engine. And they have search ads and, so they've been increasingly kind of trying to get people to use it as a search tool. And a lot of people, go ahead, Mike.
Well, I have a question. Does TikTok, how do they create the local graph, the knowledge graph? Do they bring in data like Apple and Google does from third parties, or do they would just rely on users who are to create a location that then gets talked? In other words, is every location already there, or does a location need to get created to start getting
Right.
reviews?
You're assuming that a knowledge graph exists. Maybe it doesn't.
I don't know. I'm asking if it does.
I cannot answer that definitively. I will say there are locations that I've looked up just somewhere near me and they do not show up as a location in TikTok. So I'm not exactly sure where they're getting the data from. They did seem to like they were pulling stuff from Google because they did have those GBP reviews showing up on there at one point, but there are locations that have been missing.
I mean, my sense of it is, and this is just purely anecdotal, is that there are two kinds of businesses that are sort of on TikTok, if you will. One is where the business actually has a presence and they're producing their own content, and the other is just where people are talking about a business, but the business may or may not be there. I don't sense that there is a local graph, that you can search for any business and find it. Some people are probably doing so-called recovery searches or brand searches on TikTok to see what's being said about a particular location. I mean, I mentioned to you that I have two daughters. They went to Portugal over the summer and they were looking, they had a list of places they wanted to stay and things they wanted to do. And then my older daughter, who's 26, who really is a very big TikTok user, very power user, would go and look for information about these places to do what would otherwise be called a recovery search on Google to find out what people had said about them. And so I would imagine that use case is a fairly common use case, but the business may or may not be present. But there are so many TikTok users, chances are you will find a lot of these places already, I would imagine.
Yes. Yeah, I would say, like, to the point about travel and searching for that as well, it's trying to find those hidden gems. You will have those travel bloggers, creators who do posts like, "Oh, hidden gems of Portugal, hidden gems of Los Angeles," and you will see businesses that don't have a TikTok or don't really have much of a social media presence because they're hole in the wall places posted and talked about on there, and it is a nice way to get to see places, I guess, before you visit them versus general GBP. You see some photos, it's, what the business has uploaded or possibly, what people were uploading when they left a review. But now with having sort of the photos part of it being kind of incentivized with more XP points on TikTok, I'd expect that we'll see a lot more images and even more visuals, aside from just the usual videos that are on there.
How do static images get presented? I don't even know, like
I can,
on TikTok.
let me see, continue writing.
Because normally what you have is you have a creator in a physical place or talking about an experience, you know?
Yes. So I can pull it up. Let's
I hate the
do-
word creator, by the way.
So they do have a tab when you search places. You can see photos. These are photos that users have posted, but then they have
So
the
it's a
tab.
separate tab?
Yes. So there's the photos and then there's the places tab. So if I search up Gold's Gym, I'll see places, and this is where I can see if there are reviews. So the Gold's Gym near Palm Springs Air Museum. There's no ratings yet, there's no reviews. But if I look at the Gold's Gym in North Hollywood, when I scroll, I can see, let's see, this one doesn't have images. It'll just be a regular image displayed there. And you can actually filter for reviews that show images only. There we
Okay.
go. Now it shows it. So I don't think that is what it'll look like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's like it looks very much like one of these Google pages with a lot of carousels, right? I
Yes.
mean, but it's not a carousel, it's just 3 images horizontally arrayed. Is that right?
Yep, it's just a couple images. This person put like 4 images. This person put 1. This person put 6. And yeah, it's just a carousel experience. Um, it does say people's local explorer level next to their name, just like a local guide program. And you get to click on the review and you can see if people upvote if it's helpful or not.
So, it was I don't even know how long now. My sense of time is really distorted. Like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, Mike, when sort of Google head of search and advertising Prabhakar Raghavan said at a TechCrunch event, I think, when young people go to, this was for all the people, this was a PR move for antitrust purposes, but regardless, he said, well, when young people want to go find a place to eat, they don't go to Google, they go to Instagram or TikTok, right? And that was kind of like a moment that everybody noticed. And
I
after
think he
that,
said 40%.
40%, that's right. That's right. And that got a lot of exposure. And I think partly that was designed to speak to, the court and antitrust and influence the outcome, which didn't happen. But after that point, people started doing research. And there have been multiple studies now which have shown that at least for people in Gen Z, younger users, that they use TikTok for things certainly that they might have used Google for in the past. And many of them prefer TikTok to Google in certain contexts. There's some SOCi research there and Adobe research, I think, that people are explicitly using TikTok as a search engine. Um, let's talk about what categories you think, and your presence here came out of a LinkedIn post that I saw where you were talking about the value of this program in the context of local SEO and something that local SEOs should have on their radar. Um,
So just as a note,
Go
I
ahead.
looked it up. Adobe said 64% of Gen Z say they use TikTok as a search engine, not necessarily local business specific. The SOCi study said 62% of Gen Z prefer TikTok when searching for local business to shop in person. So it's fairly high in those.
Yeah, I mean, but just to your point about like it's not explicitly saying in the Adobe study that this is about local,
But
but
the SOCi study is about local.
yeah, but I mean, just in the larger context of what people search for, this has never been, local search has never gotten its due because people are so focused on sort of SEO generically. But most search activity, I will tell you, the majority of search activity in one way or another pertains to the real world.
Preach, brother. Preach.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it's if I'm doing a product search, there's a very high chance I'm gonna buy that in a store. If I'm doing a search for a service business, services are 2/3 of the American economy. There's a very high chance that that service is gonna be fulfilled offline. Overwhelming majority of services are gonna be local in nature, not necessarily an accountant or some sort of advisor where you can have this kind of a video relationship, but just the overwhelming majority of commerce in the US, services or products that are touched by the internet, which is 90+%, are ultimately local searches. That's my position here. So this is why all of this stuff is important. Sorry for the rant and the digression there. Let's get back to the categories question. If I'm a skeptic, I'm going to say to you, well, this is really only about restaurants and maybe travel. So tell me that I'm wrong.
I'd say that there's value in non-traditional storefront service businesses being on here as well. It is just to touch, I guess, on where user behavior and search behavior is shifting to. We're talking more about multimodal search, we're talking about AI search and pulling in images, videos, things like that, and building up that brand awareness. It is important to be on TikTok because it still is a place where people can find you. Maybe not traditional where I'm searching for a coffee shop near me, but even if it is just the trending content on there that is happening that businesses post out there, it is still a way to get the brand name out there. We do have a plumber at Rickety Roo who they use TikTok. They do see conversions coming from that. And it's not necessarily something that you would immediately be like, oh, I'm a plumbing business. I want to get on TikTok. But they are seeing the value in it. They are investing in it and it has worked out for them so far. So I'd say it's sort of worth a shot, especially as we're seeing TikTok add more of these local features. So, this local explorer program is new. It's only going to evolve. They added their own, they were testing, and this was back in April and now it's come to stay, but the reviews tab in videos. So if you click on a video, you'll see comments, but you can click the tab and just see the reviews left by people as well. So there's a push for them to do more. There's a push that they're putting out there with more local features. And then, as you had mentioned, Gen Zers are searching on here specifically, unspecifically for local. You don't want to ignore that part of the market.
Let's talk about your plumber. And you said, I think before we started, you also had an attorney that was doing that. What kinds of content? Let's talk about the plumber specifically. What kinds of content is the plumber putting out?
So they do have educational stuff that you'd see, like some of that top of the funnel, like drain cleaning. They do have some sort of trending content where they hop on the TikTok trends, kind of get some of the awareness there. So there are some people that just like to watch like the drain cleaning or watch the process. So just similar like how you'll see people, I guess, like ASMR videos.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that, just with like drain cleaning. They're like, oh, this is so satisfying to watch, like the drain being cleaned.
Right. No, I've seen that with like rug cleaning and other things. It's really strange and interesting. People are fascinated by watching the process. Yeah. But
And
how
then
do
hiring it out because they don't want to do it themselves.
Yes.
That's me.
well, so how do they know? How does this plumber know that they're having success with this content?
So I've been working with their social media team and I'm trying to put together some standardized reporting with how they're tracking conversions. I'm not a social media manager, I'm on the SEO side of things. I do see just the value in it because they have seen people call in from it. I can't say specifically on their places, I would have to check. On some places on TikTok, you can actually call them from the app. There's a call button within there. There's also a maps button in there. Is like, I'm not saying you're going to visit the plumber, but they have those actions within there. So there are phone calls that could possibly be tracked.
Is that your real number or is that a call tracking number?
For this plumber, I'm not sure if they have access to that feature yet, but just as a
But
user,
in general, do you know if they have call tracking or is it just your real phone number that is used?
I'm not sure. I can try to look up this phone number
That's
right now.
okay. That's okay. I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I was just curious. I mean, these analytics will probably come in time if they don't exist today. What about the lawyer? What kinds of content is the lawyer doing? Is it a
Educational.
is it a PI lawyer, personal injury
Yes,
lawyer?
personal injury lawyer,
Right, yeah,
educational, and then trending, the funny PI stuff that they
right.
put out.
Have, yeah.
The
Well, that's
trending stuff seems a little problematic to me just because it's one and done literally and figuratively, as opposed to YouTube where a piece might have short-term traction, but more importantly, because it's a search engine, has long-term traction. So how does a business deal with this sort of constant churn on TikTok? I mean, it seems like it's a brutal master to me.
well, not if you think about it as a search engine, but go ahead.
I would just say that sometimes videos that were trending or doing well, 6 months ago, sometimes they get a random push, 6 months later, and you don't know. And sometimes it's sort of like how Instagram has changed their algorithm where you're like, wait, why am I not seeing posts in chronological order? Oh my gosh, I just like someone's post that was like from 3 weeks ago. And we've seen that with TikTok as well. It's sometimes just older videos, even if they were a trending content thing, just get random pushes. And then just to Greg's point, if you're thinking about it as a search engine, it is still stuff that people will engage with and look at over time as they go through the account.
Now you can, I mean, I'm sorry to be such a like ignorant about TikTok, even though for a while I was a totally addicted heavy user. I mean, you can save videos, right? Obviously you follow individual accounts and you can collect videos. So you could create an archive of places that you wanted to visit or
Yes.
great cafes or whatever it is. So that's an option too. So let's expand beyond the lawyer and the plumber. Who should be thinking about doing this? If you're an SEO advising clients, or if you're a business yourself, who should consider doing this?
I
Who is
think,
more likely to get value out of it?
yeah, physical storefronts, absolutely. So, we had mentioned just earlier, like those restaurants, cafes, travel, so hotels, excursions, zip lining business, want to be on
Hardware
there.
store, hardware store.
Could be worth it. I mean, I feel like a lot of it is exploratory as they're pushing out more of these local features. And, we are getting like Gen Z is getting older. They're going to be doing more and more searches on here for
Right.
different types of things. Top of mind would just be those physical storefronts and in knowing where I can go eat, where I can go stay, what types of activities, like a escape room, things like that, where you can show an experience and stuff where people really want to see where they're going to visit. That would be number one. And obviously, like, talking about the plumber and lawyer, it is more testing, exploratory with something like that. I do think, it's only going to grow and, we don't know where it's going to end up. And it's sort of just worth it to at least get the information out there and sort of just, create the account, have your address in there, put your phone number in the bio, have the basics set up and done.
One of the things we talk about, Mike, did you have a question?
Yeah.
No? Okay. One of the things we talk about now, ever since all the revelations coming out of the default search antitrust trial and then the Google search API leak, there's been a lot of emphasis on brands, right? Brands get more clicks and Google rewards clicks and so on and so forth. And of course, people choose brands because they're familiar. And so the sort of simple advice is build your brand off of Google to make it more likely that people are going to choose you on Google or search for you, brand direct searches. TikTok is one place to do that. Social media is a place to do that. YouTube, Instagram, etc., traditional media to some degree. Do you have any thoughts on TikTok as a brand? So there's TikTok as a search engine, sort of performance marketing, category search, whatever brand search. But what about it as a brand building mechanism? What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. It is, I think, very important to use it to build that brand awareness and to get, the business's name out there and to put as much, information about the business on there as possible. When I have tried just before, like doing some local searches on like ChatGPT, I have been recommended some things from TikTok.
So videos showing up in ChatGPT.
I'll get them at like a citation. Yeah.
Okay.
So, they can be pulled in with AI search. We're seeing that in AI mode, you can even see TikToks too. So I just think in sort of brand awareness, it is definitely important and something local businesses should be paying attention to at this point. Yeah, it's just very important to try to get, the information about your business out there and sort of having that um, information overload, as I like to say. It's better to sort of overshare than undershare.
So if I may, I mean, there's probably a whole discussion about TikTok best practices in terms of content creation and the kinds of things that you do. But if if I'm a local SEO, an agency, or if I'm a business owner, how should I think about how much time and energy? I mean, I'm sure you can get all kinds of reports about posting frequency and all of that, but sort of putting that aside, how much should I invest in this? Is this something where I've got to create
Compared to GBP, website,
right?
LSA ads, Facebook,
Well,
whatever.
are you talking about money or are you talking about
No,
time?
well, time and money. I mean, I think they're this, but yeah, I'm asking the same question, but in relation to other opportunities.
Right. I mean, people want to be efficient with their marketing investments, both financially and time wise. So, Mike's question, and then my question was really trying to get at, should I give it 6 months? Should I give it a year? Should I give it 3 months? So, what can you tell us about how much of an investment you should make?
So, this is entirely going to depend on the size of the local business and the resources that they have to them. Some of them are truly very small local businesses where like every second and every dollar counts. And I'd say similarly to SEO, where it's like, oh, it's going to take an investment to be able to get there, and it's going to take time to get there. It's going to take time with TikTok. It's going to be an investment. It is something where it's like, if you're going to do it well and kind of go all in, if that's what you want to do on the video creation side of things. At the very least, I'd say just making the profile and having the basic information there. If that's about all you can do, then please do it. And in splitting that between LSA, GBP, this is still early and in its infancy. So if it cannot be a high priority right now, like there isn't the time, there isn't the resources, then that is okay. Let's say you are going in on YouTube at this point, you can distribute that to TikTok. If you are going in on Instagram at this point, you can distribute it to TikTok. TikTok, you could post photos and do photo carousels as well. So if you are posting photos on Instagram, you can post those same photos on TikTok and use it as sort of just a distribution channel if there isn't, that time or the resource to create specifically for TikTok. And at the same point, if you are thinking about Instagram or YouTube, if you create for TikTok, you can just redistribute that content on those other channels.
Do people have to try and remove watermarks and things like that? Or they just, I see TikTok videos showing up on other social media networks, where people, it's got the little TikTok outro or whatever, or the watermark.
Depending on how you save it, it shouldn't have the watermark. When I've created videos on there and reposted it to YouTube, if I just have it set up to save once I create the video, it won't have the watermark.
So before you upload it to the site, in other words?
Yes.
So you
Yeah.
create the video independent of the site, you upload it, or you're saying the TikTok video won't carry the watermark over to YouTube.
If I do the editing like in TikTok and I post there first, and with how the settings are set up, when I click publish, it automatically saves to my camera roll without the watermark.
Okay.
So it's possible to not have it. I know that was a big issue before, but it shouldn't be anymore.
Without getting into all the sort of cultural differences between YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, um, you know, does it make sense for marketers to make one set of videos and push them out into all these places?
I'd say, with local and the scale of different businesses, if that's the only thing I can sustain at this point, then you don't have to wait for something to be perfect or platform specific necessarily to put it out there. Let's say you do create that video and you go on TikTok, or you created it in TikTok, you use the green screen function on there, or you use the trending sound and hashtags, whatever it is, you can translate that to Instagram and pick a different trending sound where it's not entirely different content. It's the same video, but you can change the music, you can change the captions, you can change the text on the video. So it's not like you have to go all in on something very specific for TikTok, something very specific for YouTube, something very specific for Instagram. And you can still see traction across platforms.
Okay, I want to move into just sort of the mechanics of this from a coordination with local SEO. How to think about this in terms of your broader local SEO program. But but as a sort of segue into that, we talked a little bit about how the plumber and lawyer might be tracking the tr- referrals from TikTok. What are the metrics that you guys are using that you've seen used to determine success? I mean, we talked a little bit about some of that before we started recording.
So, correlative data with TikTok, video went viral. Let's look at that time period and how that affected branded search. Let's also
Branded
look at,
search on Google.
yes, yeah, go to GSC, look up the brand name, see what happened during the time period of when the video went viral. Because, sometimes the search could start in TikTok and then move to Google to actually see the location, especially because if it is from places, let's just say, it'll take you straight to Google Maps or to Apple Maps. So even looking at what was going on with your GBP, correlating it, nothing can be definitive at that point. And then looking just at referrals in GA4 from TikTok as well, just to see, if you have the link in the bio, the amount of users that were coming in from there. I think those two are the biggest that SEOs can look at this point.
Okay. And one of the things that you discussed in your LinkedIn post was that local SEOs should start paying attention to this and, be aware of this, start paying attention, and possibly try and take advantage to whatever degree you can of this local. I mean, we've been talking about generally, we started talking about local explorers and then we've been talking generally about TikTok. How can you integrate some of these things into a broader SEO strategy? How do you operationalize that? What does that mean? What would you advise SEOs to do?
So I'd say obviously track, the referral traffic coming in from there. And that way you have the proof that, okay, there are users coming in from here. We can get like, there is the importance of the platform. Using videos that are relevant to pages on the website that have performed well and embedding them on the website helps. Um, I'd say video embeds, looking at some of the data from there and doing manual searches. When you look up certain places, you can see videos that creators have made about the place. You can see the reviews, you can see the comments. Sometimes you'll get filters at the top. So if you were to search for Voodoo Donuts, you'll get to see what are the common other tags that people have possibly searched for as well, along with Voodoo Donuts. So you could see Voodoo Donuts and then it'll say Denver, specific locations, or it'll say ASMR because people are looking for Voodoo Donut ASMR content. And then they even show others also searched for or others searched for. So sort of like a people also ask to see what other types of information people are looking for out there. Specific example, SoFi Stadium, they have a clear bag, small bag policy. If you try to search on Google, it's they give you dimensions on what the size of the bag is. That's not helpful for people. Sometimes they need to see what the bag looks like and how small that is. So if you look up SoFi Stadium on TikTok, the other search for it will be SoFi Stadium bag policy or SoFi Stadium bag size. Getting to know what other things people want to find about the business, you can use that as sort of a keyword research, audience research tool. And then in using those reviews and comments and sort of looking at it from a sentiment analysis standpoint, positive, neutral, negative reviews. Those positive reviews, you can display them on the site. The positive things on there, you can use it to help you write more conversion focused headlines. And even taking those TikToks and without the watermark, reposting them on your GBP or using them for a GBP posts.
Right. So you're saying use it as a research tool for SEO in addition to a destination for content or as a performance marketing tool or as a brand building tool.
Yes.
That's interesting. So how do some local SEOs work in agencies with social media teams? How do you coordinate that? I mean, you at Rickety Roo obviously have both of those. I mean, I'm assuming you have a social media unit within Rickety Roo. Is that right?
So the businesses that we work for all have different social media teams if they do have.
Okay, so outside.
We don't have an inside
Okay.
person who's doing it. So it's coordinating with either, the business owner and their internal team or their other agency that does social and trying to put together reports and sort of getting the data from them on what to work with.
Just a quick digression into reviews. So in GBP, you can respond to reviews, obviously, and some of these other platforms you can respond to reviews. Does that exist in TikTok? Is the business owner allowed to or able to respond to reviews, either thanks for the great feedback or something to a negative review?
As far as what I've seen, no responses so far. I've just been, yeah, just the users leaving reviews and that sort of it. Nothing from the business.
Because I mean,
Corollary question to that, Greg,
yeah,
is are you seeing review fraud, and does TikTok offer any moderation of review fraud or
like the
violations of terms
GBP,
of service?
unless you pay us money, we're going to keep writing negative reviews based
Or
there.
people buying fake positive reviews,
Right.
or people blackheading with fake negative reviews, or people swearing, any of the various moderation issues. Does TikTok offer a way to deal with that, or is basically it hasn't gotten to that level yet?
I don't think it's gotten to that level yet. In their documentation, though, so with just the XP points and getting rewarded for reviews, they do have a 24-hour process before you get any XP on the review. So that way they can monitor to make sure that it is real. It's pretty ambiguous in what they say, but it's 24 hours before they determine if the review will get the XP points or not. So I'm assuming that's where they're doing some of that filtering and deciding if the review is actually helpful.
To the extent that this becomes a bigger and bigger deal, let's just assume that there's more visibility and it becomes a more important part of the experience. You can bet that people will be trying to incentivize fake positive and negative reviews. I'm sure. There's a lot of people out there that are looking to make money in one form or another, and there are many local guides who are participating in review fraud. I mean, I can't tell you the numbers off the top of my head. The Curtis Boyd transparency company question, but he's documented that. I mean, I don't know what the percentage is. It's probably not a large, with 500 million, it's probably not a huge percentage, but that's a strategy that some fraudsters use, is trying to get at the local guides who have more credibility. Okay, so we've talked about a ton of stuff. Is there anything about the Local Explorer program that we didn't talk about that you think is important to know or understand?
I'd say that at this point, it's not heavily incentivized to do it. So there's the authenticity factor that I just wanted to touch on. And it's, especially with AI search now, getting even more traction, that's going to continue to grow. We brought up review fraud, and that is likely to happen because it has happened, since the beginning of time.
Well, I mean, Reddit, we talked about Reddit before, and Reddit,
Mhm.
was a place that people were going for authentic comments and information. And now that Reddit is a big deal and hugely visible, there's a lot more spam going on and people trying to game it. So that's inevitable.
Yes. Yeah. So I'd say that Reddit was the place for authenticity. It was the place to, ask questions that you weren't going to get the answer from in Google, and get, maybe some real local recommendations from other people who live in your area. And now, businesses are tapping into it, and it is something that Reddit users are now aware of, not very happy with. I'd say TikTok for now, with the reviews not being super incentivized other than, XP points and being part of a community, it's not as crazy spammy. And you will see content creators who were incentivized to create the videos, just like you will on Instagram. Anecdotally, and just in my talks with other Gen Zers who do their searches on here, there has also been just a shift away from Instagram and sort of local discovery as well, because of the amount of influencers who are paid to go to these restaurants. And you look at the comments and you see that people are saying, like, no, this restaurant was actually the worst. This influencer was totally paid for this. Like, you couldn't pay me to go there. You'll actually see the authenticity and like the realness in the comments. And I feel like with TikTok, having comments and reviews side by side there is something that users value and will continue to value more and more, so they can get that side by side on, okay, maybe these people were incentivized to leave a positive review here. Let me see what the comments are saying. And it's more of a place to get that human touch and human interaction and authenticity on how people actually feel about a business versus, you know, Google reviews that are incentivized a lot now.
Do you know to what extent the TikTok algorithm, which is obviously very celebrated, is it, for at least for local searches, is using reviews as a way to rank what businesses appear in what order? Do you have any sense of that?
I do not. Yeah, honestly, this is they only just started testing the reviews and comments in April, May, and then the reviews shifting from a mixture of GBP to TikTok happened within that time period to now when we're speaking today. So it keeps updating where I would not be able to have a grasp of that.
Sure. Just as a kind of final comment, and then Mike can ask any final follow-up questions. As I said, we've talked about a ton of stuff. What would you say to a local SEO who's representing a bunch of local business clients about how to think about this going forward? What's your sort of very concrete tactical advice?
I'd say, if there is a social media person or team that your clients are working with, communicate and collaborate with them. Try to see what insights you can gain from their reporting and seeing how that can help with content on the site and making sure that, people who are searching for things on there could easily find it on the site. So that way it is pulled in if people end up doing searches in other search engines. And if there isn't, a social media person or team that is working on these clients, I'd say at least push for the client to get started with just making the profile and getting the basic information out there. So the information is there and, they can come back to it when they're ready and in that space to start the content creation on there.
But even if you're not going to go sort of full force into content creation on TikTok, I thought it was interesting that you were recommending that people use TikTok as a research tool for content ideas and for keywords. I mean, that I thought that was very interesting. So you can use it even though you might not be putting content on there as well.
Yes. Yeah. Like I said with the SOFI thing, like, okay, sure, they do have some information about the bag policy on there. That's just like that standard bag stuff. But users are going to TikTok for it because they need to see it. So that might be a push like, oh, we should probably have a visual on here. We should probably make that more specific on the website. Or coffee shops and then looking for sugar-free options. You see people are searching for sugar-free options on TikTok. That's a filter that you're seeing for sugar-free coffee shops in LA. Maybe you want to put that information on the website or on the GBP.
Right. I mean, one of the things that I've been tracking is the relationship between AI, ChatGPT in particular, and Google, right? So what happens is people will do local searches on AI. And then typically what they will do is they'll go to Google to look at reviews or to get maps and directions. That's very similar to what people do on social media. They're doing discovery on social media. It's different than AI, obviously. And then Google is the last click very often to get to the website or to get the review information. Obviously, you don't need that if you're getting that from TikTok, but it's a way to think about the relationship between AI and Google, similar to TikTok, Instagram, and to some degree YouTube as a precursor to a Google visit. Mike, do you have any sort of final thoughts or questions?
Nope, I've just been trying to learn.
Trying to assimilate the information? Well,
Yes, given that it's the opposite end of my universe.
well, it's a lot of it's something that a lot of I mean, there are some businesses that are just all in on social media. A lot of local businesses, social media tends to be the number one marketing channel for local businesses. I mean, not necessarily TikTok, but they tend to do that. I mean, Bright Local had a stat that said only 30, I think this is correct. It was shocking to me. Only 35% in their most recent survey of small businesses had claimed their Google business profile. I've done surveys that have a slightly higher number, but it's below 50%, which is just shocking. But at the same time, they sort of understand social media conceptually. Not that you can't understand GBP conceptually, but there's a way in which they're much more invested in social than they are in these traditional SEO tactics. So, but anyway, fascinating topic. Definitely something to pay more attention to. And we appreciate your time very much coming to educate us, middle-aged old people here about this, even though I was in rehab for several months to detox from my TikTok addiction. which is it's really a problem. It's a really serious problem that you can fall into a hole and never emerge from. So thank you very much, Celeste Gonzalez. And if people want to find you or talk to you, where do they do that?
Yeah, thank you. So I am on LinkedIn, Celeste Gonzalez. I work at Rickety Roo, so you can see it's that one. And then I'm on Blue Sky and TikTok as well. TikTok, my handle is your fave or
And what kind of content are you creating on TikTok? SEO content?
so SEO content and a mix of work from home with me. That's like a really big thing on there is people like to watch people work from home and share their
And
little
is
daily routines, day in my life.
and is Rickety Roo getting clients out of your TikTok content?
I have not had a client from my TikTok yet. It is not, only 675 followers from there. But yeah, I post SEO content on there as well as day in the life and like conferences. I'll post about them too.
There's a surprising amount of SEO content on TikTok. I was really surprised to see that. And a lot of it, I am not as expert as Mike is, but a lot of it is just wrong, bad information.
Yeah, it'll be like, I mean, the old school sort of keyword spamming, put it in the corner, like for the videos, put it in the corner, make it really small, hide it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll work. That works for ChatGPT once again. So what's old is new again.
Yeah, I guess so. All right. Well, thanks again for joining us, and we will talk to you again at some future point. Thank you, Celeste.
Thank you.